a 42-year-old thrill-seeker cave jumper set out on his Silver Celebration cave, plunging festivity at ELO Tidal Pond. He was jumping with one more high-level jumper and companion anyway. While making their leave, a thin side entry represented a danger to his well-being. ELO Tidal Pond, a shocking regular spot in the Dominican Republic, is situated north of 100 miles from Santo Domingo. It's basically a major opening in the ground, encompassed by gorgeous landscape. Arriving is simple, with steps made of concrete that bring you down to the water. The outer layer of the water is extraordinary for swimming, particularly on the left side. As you swim around, you'll find a long passage and a sinkhole. The passage goes around 328 ft in, and there's a major open region around 154 ft inside. The initial segment of the cave has a truly tall and wide passage with cool enhancements that look dull and stained. One section in there is really tall, more than 49 ft. The most profound piece of the tidal pond is around 66 ft. When you arrive at the finish of the principal burrow, there's a lofty slant going up around 20 ft at the top. The way parts to the not too far off's a pocket of air. However, you can't go outside from that point to the left. The cavern continues going, welcoming you to investigate. Seriously proceeding with the fundamental passage, the cavern steadily limits, and you go through an entrancing stretch, enhanced with exceptional dim tapered rocks. This interesting segment adds an additional layer of interest to your submerged excursion before the passage extends again. As you progress through the rest of the jump, you'll see an absence of intricate enrichments, and the profundity turns out to be more sensible, averaging simply 20 to 23 ft. After roughly 45 minutes of investigation, you arrive at the finish of the passage, paving the way to one more entry, known as the Quad d'Ely. Here, a vivacious local area of bat snakes and ordinary cavern tenants, like whip scorpions and tarantulas, anticipates your disclosure. While it's feasible to exit through Quad d'Ely, it's not the most helpful choice. Returning, you have the potential chance to swim around the sink opening's left side and dig into the cave zone. This region involves 2 extra passages, prompting the third entry Co's prior to circling back. Close to the underlying steps, it's a completely exhilarating submerged experience, drawing in speleologists from different corners of the globe who look to investigate these complex underground labyrinths. Anyway, it's significant that occasionally these trying excursions can prompt unforeseen difficulties or even fiascos. While looking at trying jumpers, 42-year-old Wes Smith's name normally springs up. He was a plunging fan whose beginnings were in the Caribbean, however, who lived in Canada. His adoration for jumping took him to a few key areas all over the planet, and this made him meet a few jumpers. The day he became guaranteed as a cavern jumper was one of his most joyful, and he even set up a party from that point forward. He had continued very nearly 182 cavern plunges. It was on a comparative excursion that he met a similarly trying jumper, Graham. Notwithstanding nearly having lost his life in the blue opening on one jump, West never halted to stamp West 25 years. As a jumper, they put their focus on ELO Tidal Pond. Upon the arrival of their enthusiastically expected jump, West and Graham energetically headed to the jump site. Similarly, as the sun was making its presentation not too far off with their stuff prepared and energy running high, they enthusiastically prepared to set out on this completely exhilarating experience. West started to lead the pack as they initiated their submerged investigation, plunging into the profundities of the tidal pond. The pair at last showed up at the entry of the cavern framework, exploring through close ways and strikingly passing an unmistakable admonition sign. The cavern framework started to uncover its privileged insights. An immense passage unfurled before them, enhanced with support points, stalagmites, and underground rock formation, making a hypnotizing underground scene that appeared to extend perpetually into the profundities of the earth. As they proceeded with their excursion, West and Graham arrived at an open room inside the cavern where they found a valuable air pocket, they proceeded with their plunge, since it would take them a sum of 45 minutes before, at long last, arriving at the finish of the cavern framework, which was their jump objective during their excursion. They explored through a side entry, a precarious segment, where jumpers should be really mindful so as to try not to get stuck. The Public Speleological Society underscores that this thin side entry is normally just endeavored by jumpers furnished with side mount gear. As they went further into the cavern, the environmental factors turned out to be significantly more tight and more bound than when they initially began. Demonstrate hatred for the rising difficulties they pushed on anxious to encounter the excitement of arriving at the last objective inside Aldo in the long run as their submerged investigation moved toward its decision. They coincidentally found an elective exit known as the Quava de Lily. This piece of the cavern revealed a captivating world loaded up with bats, tarantulas, scorpions, and snakes. Anyway, adhering to their unique intent to exit through similar course, they rolled in from western. Graham imparted through signals, pivoted, and began their climb back to the surface for the leave plunge. Graham started to lead the pack west, was stunned by the excellence he was seeing, and with Graham still in the #1 spot, the jumpers went on. Eventually Graham would investigate at west to be aware on their off chance that he was fine, and continuing accordingly, he would give a thumbs up sign to show that he was fine. So they progressed forward with their excursion. During their jump, they guaranteed that they checked their gas. They actually had an adequate number of gas to assist them with making their rising effectively. As of now, the prospect of something turning out badly wouldn't actually cross their sea. Any problems they're just attempting to leave. The jumpers kept on remembering their way. As they left, Graham kept on driving the manner in which they burrowed through the limited paths cautiously. Soon they got to the side entry, and Graham went on at the opposite end. He sat tight for west before he could proceed with their rising. Anyway, he understood that he was taking surprisingly lengthy. He started to develop stress. Still confident, he hung tight for a couple of moments, and when he didn't see West coming, he chose to pursue him on. Plunging into the sideway, he met with an uncommon and startling sight. Graham saw that his companion was stuck. His tank had been trapped in a free roll, and with the restricted space he couldn't move around to free himself. Graham pondered how this could have happened. He didn't see the rules prior, and on the off chance that he had, he might have told West. Inclination profoundly irritated, he attempted to sort out an answer, yet there wasn't any. On top of that, he saw the region was gradually getting loaded up with sediment attempting to get out. West kicked up more residue. Now their stage bottles in the air compartments they had were practically vacant. Simply contemplating, it was truly unnerving. Graham attempted to advise West how to wander aimlessly, yet it just made more residue move around. When he really looked at the strain again, he saw that there was not really any air left. It was getting super low. Inclination truly miserable. Graham needed to get together his boldness and choose to abandon West where it counts. He trusted that something otherworldly would end up fixing what is happening, despite the fact that he would have rather not let his companion be. He guaranteed West that he would go get help. You could see the apprehension all over, and his eyes were essentially asking for somebody to act the hero. Practically running out of juice and brimming with dread, Lewis hurried up to the following arrangement of stage suppressors, which were around 100 FD. He made it simply just under the wire, yet, despite the fact that he arrived at the jugs, he actually felt truly melancholy, particularly when he saw the container that West should utilize climbing. He felt a ton of dread when Graham jumped out of the water, yelled for help, and every one of the jumpers on the ground rushed over to him. He recounted to them the entire startling story, bathing with them to protect his companion. He was truly stressed that his companion could have proactively run out of oxygen almost an hour after the fact too. Salvage jumpers advanced toward the part where was stalled out, and their most terrible feelings of dread were affirmed. Unfortunately, He had previously taken his final gasp, and his dormant body stayed wedged in the limited segments. Recovering his body was extreme because of the profundity and the IE condition where he was viewed as subsequent to pursuing for 3 days, without progress. An exceptionally experienced jumper knowledgeable, incomparable protects, at last figured out how to bring his body up to the surface. The shores is an extraordinary sign of how unsafe cavern plunging can be, regardless of whether you observe every one of the guidelines. Nature could toss an uncalled for challenge your direction to all the jumping fans out there. If it's not too much trouble, be additional mindful on your next submerged experience. We might want to thank you for watching this video in the event that you delighted in watching Take a Plunge on the like. And buy in buttons and hit the chime symbol so you get informed when we return with another thrilling cavern plunging.